Hey, it's Mr. Allred here for practice problem number 2 solution for the absolute value equations. So retracing our steps, the first thing we do is look at our absolute value, which in this case our problem is the absolute value of 5x minus 3 and then plus 2 equals 3x. And the first thing we do is once we find that absolute value, we like to isolate it. And we do that using basic solving steps, treating the absolute value of 5x minus 3 as a single variable. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides to get it away from the absolute value. Of course, the 2's cancel out on the left-hand side. But now we have the absolute value of 5x minus 3 equal to 3x minus 2. And those are not like terms, so they don't combine. So we're at the point of our absolute value is completely by itself. So we're going to create two cases. So case 1 assumes the absolute value or what's in there is already positive, so we just drop the bars. So 5x minus 3 equals 3x minus 2, which is a pretty simple equation to solve. But I also like to go ahead and write down the second equation. So in that sense, I need to change the sign of 5x minus 3, which means that'll be negative 5x plus 3. I don't do the other side, but I'll have 3x minus 2. So negative 5x plus 3 equals 3x minus 2 for case 2. So let's solve both of these. We're in a place where we're using simple linear equations. So let's see what we can do here. 5x minus 3 equals 3x minus 2. I like my x's to be positive, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, which forces me to add 3 to both sides. I'm doing the add subtract portion of my linear equation solving. So on the left I get 2x equals 1. Okay. So all my x's are now on the left, non-x's on the right. So I just need to divide by the coefficient, which leaves me with x equals 1/2 as a solution. Yay, it's a fraction. We're going to check that in a moment. Case 2 of negative 5x plus 3 equals 3x minus 2. I can add 5x to both sides. And that will force me to add 2 to both sides. Doesn't matter which side these things end up on. I just like a positive x, but it's not necessary. So when I combine like terms, I get 5 equals 8x, which just means I'm at the point of dividing by the coefficient of 8. So I get x equals 5/8. So another delicious fraction to check. So let's see. Let's go back up here and rewrite our equation so we can remind ourselves. So we're going to go over here and we're going to check the equation. Absolute value of 5x minus 3 plus 2 equals 3x. So we're going to let x equal 1/2 for my first equation. And if fractions are not your thing, you can use decimals. If your fractions are not rational, if your fractions do not make nice decimals, then you will not necessarily get a true balance if you try rounding them off. But you can see whether or not they are very close. So if I plug in 1/2, I get an absolute value of, I believe, negative 1/2. I get 5/2 minus 3, yes. Then I'll have plus 2 equals 3/2. So absolute value of negative 1/2 is positive 1/2. So plus 2 equals 3/2. So this is not working out. Let's see if we can figure out the problem. So 1/2, 5/2 minus 3, which would be minus 6. Oh, I've still got to... Sorry, I just paused the video there so I wouldn't have to start all over, but something happened I wasn't expecting. So let's see here. 1/2 plus 2/2 would be 2.5, which is 5/2, equal to 3/2. That's not true. So here's a good place where the check was very worthy. So when we come back over here, this answer doesn't work. So let's see if we can get it over here. Does not, and that's a scary looking not work. So we're just going to cross it out. So the 1/2 didn't work. Okay, we did our best and it just didn't go our way. That's why we need to check ourselves. So let's check the second one here, which was 5/8, I believe. Yes, 5/8. Let's see if it works. So when we do this, we're going to plug 5/8 in. So we'll have the absolute value of 25/8 minus 3 plus 2 equals 15/8. So let's see if this works out. We'll need a common denominator in here, so we'll get 1/8 when we say 25/8 minus 3, and that's positive, so plus 2 equals 15/8. So this is 2 plus an 8, which if you make common denominator again, I'll write it out. 1/8 plus 16/8 equals 15/8. So you can hopefully look at that really quickly and see it's not going your way, whereas you get 17/8 equals 15/8, which is again not true. So we come over here and we see this as does not work. Okay. So in the end, what this tells us is we came up with a problem that had, let's see if it helps me, no solution. We did everything correctly. The problem just didn't work out for us. If you kind of pay attention up here, if you want me to explain it a little bit more, the two cases here. If we plug both of these in without any other information, it just doesn't balance out. So you can try this out on your own and see if you can figure out where things went wrong, but we do not get a solution from this problem.